everybody, and we are live. Man, I am very excited to be here. Mark's message. And I've got to tell you, the guy that we're going to bring on here next, man, is an author. I can't wait to talk to Brian Monahan. But before I do that, on Mark's message, I have to give the shout outs. I am broadcasting live from the peachiest place on the planet. That's Peachtree Corners, Georgia. Really glad to be here, grateful to be here. And with that, I'll give my shout outs to Grow Live Nation, emerging sales winners, diehards, everybody throughout the entire state of Georgia and the planet. And what we're going to do right now is I'm going to introduce the guest before we bring him on. And he's got a little bio here, and we have some things in common. So this is going to be a lot of fun tonight. Brian Monahan is the Vice President of Business Development for Prestige AV and Creative Services, a 20-plus year veteran of the live event and hospitality industry. Brian's first job as an event professional was during his service in the United States Marine Corps, as a combat visual imagery specialist, also known as an audiovisual technician in camouflage. Dig that. And Brian's work is unique blend of passion for excellent customer service and creative event production to include exceptional business acumen. Brian recently documented this passion, releasing his first book, which we're going to delve into, Customer Delight 365, a daily inspirational customer service for professionals. And in addition to his industry-focused passions, if that's not enough, Brian is driven to help others find success in business and life. Dig this. He's a certified professional coach in 2011. Obviously, this skill sets and helps Brian share his knowledge with other meeting and event professionals on the most effective ways possible. Brian does speak at meetings and industry-related conferences, functions, and has been a guest on many emerging podcasts covering topics from customer service to virtual event production. Last but not least, the man lives in Cincinnati with his wife, Megan, and his 11-year-old daughter, Ella, who already has learned quite a bit about technology from dad, and I'm sure she's going to become another amazing young lady. Brian is passionate about helping people find success in life and business through technology. Let's bring on now, everybody. Here's Brian.
Hey, Mark. Great to see you.
Hey, good to see you. I don't know. Did I get crazy there? Was I getting out of kilter?
No, you were wonderful. I mean, I'm going to have to hire you as an MC on my shows. So, I mean, you're excellent at doing introductions. I love it.
Well, you and I have something in common here, and I'm going to say thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you.
And I also served. I have to ask, I was in the Army. I did basic at Fort Jackson. How about you? Were you Hollywood Marine or were you in?
So you know the difference, huh? Now I was a Paris Island Marine.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we chewed similar dirt then. Yeah. It's a little hot there, isn't it, Brian?
Oh, absolutely.
And let me ask you a question so everybody understands this. I will bet you have never forgotten your drill instructor, have you?
Absolutely not.
No, I never have either. And
senior drill instructor.
Huh?
Not just a drill instructor, but senior drill instructor.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. And much less to say gunny.
Absolutely.
They're scary. And how I know about this is I actually attended and graduated from the Naval School of Music. So I was dealing with a lot of Marines and Navy people. There was a few of us Army guys there at that school, but it was pretty cool. I learned a lot from them. But the one thing, you and I do have in common, and I won't ask when you did serve, but I want to say thank you. That was volunteer, correct? There was no grant. See, that's a beautiful concept. Thank you, Brian. And the other thing
thank you as well, Mark. I appreciate it.
Thank you. No big deal. I had to, I guess. My dad was a retired sergeant major. My brother, a ring knocker from the West Point Military Academy. So he retired a lieutenant colonel. And you wouldn't believe what he's doing now. He has got a little cottage industry. He's doing a lot of yard work and, fixing up gardens and helping people, and totally different, diverse. He went from becoming an artillery engineer and now he's taking care of everybody's yard work. So kind of neat.
Is he in Atlanta with you doing
No,
peaches?
he is actually in Alabama, and his wife is a teacher at USA. She's a professor there. But that's enough of that. I digressed. But do you remember what MOS means? Your
Absolutely.
military occupation specialty. That's everybody. When I was talking about visual imagery specialist, I got to ask now, when you went through basic, I know how it was for me. Did you catch hell when they found out that's what you were going to become?
Well, actually, the Marine Corps, most people are riflemen first.
Right.
Every Marine's a rifleman. And so you go to boot camp, then you go to MCT, which is Marine Combat Training. And luckily, I had gone on with a guaranteed contract. So I knew I was going to this schooling. And I actually went to Lowry Air Force Base, which for my training, which Lowry's no longer there. But I remember meeting the master sergeant or the master gunnery sergeant there. And he goes, "Brian, this is not the Marine Corps." But the Air Force Base is a way different experience. But no, when we were at MCT, they were like calling out where people were going. And they're like, Monahan, Denver, Colorado. And everybody else is going to Camp Lejeune. So
I actually wound up, when they found out, my drill instructor found out. Oh my goodness. Staff Sergeant, he about went crazy on me. He says, "Little Creek, where's that at?" I said, "Virginia." "What is that?" "Oh my goodness. In the band, what the heck is that about?" But and then I wound up, needless to say, Fort Riley, Kansas, Big Red 1. So figure that out. There I am in an infantry unit. So voila, so be it. Well, let's get into you, Brian. I mean, you have done so many things. You're in the hospitality biz. I've been there. I think that is great that you're into this at Prestige. Tell me about Prestige AV and Creative Services, what you do there.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Obviously, I think one of the things that we have in common is this event industry. I know you spent a little bit on the trade show side of things, and we're more on the conference side of things, audiovisual and production services. So Prestige works with associations, works with corporations putting on events, conferences. So if you're in a large event, maybe when we could do that, but maybe 1,000 people at a general session, a corporate sales rally. We provided all the screens and projection, lights, cameras, video production, LED walls now. So, we're helping, what I say is we help people make their message loud, memorable. We bring the flash to an event, but then we also do things like the breakouts and the various audiovisual elements of that. And then we also have a part of our business that we're the in-house AV provider or audiovisual provider for hotels, convention centers. Some of our notable, we're in the Cincinnati Convention Center, which is known as the Duke Energy Convention Center. We're in Memphis Convention Center, which is recently remodeled, about ready to come open again. And Louisville Convention Center. You've probably done some stuff at the Kentucky Expo Center, which is a unique property as well. So those are all.
Thank you, Bruce.
Bruce is always good for pulling something out of thin air for reference.
But I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No.
But, that is tremendous. Now, how long have you been there? Is this recent, or have you been there for
Well, it's interesting. I'm actually president of what we call the 3-Time Club. I'm on my third tour of duty at the company over about a 20-year period. So I started out working for as what we call a property manager. I represented a hotel for the company in Dayton, Ohio. And I just kind of grew with the company, decided I wanted to get into sales because I just liked the thrill of the hunt, so to speak. And so about halfway through that time, I said, let me take a stab at that. And I've just really enjoyed everything about that part of the business. I love creating relationships, building new relationships.
Right.
And so, Yeah. So, but yeah, I've been there over a 20-year period, and just about every role the company could possibly have. And so, hello to all these wonderful people coming in.
I
I don't know.
know. And
I have.
feel free
Yeah.
while Brian's going on here, feel free to share it, guys. It's
Mm.
okay if you want to share it.
Yeah,
Do.
absolutely. I see some great friends, some emerging sales winners. I think you gave a shout out to them early. Some of
Right.
the Megamind group
I
here.
forgot these guys. Megamind. Yes. Coach Phil is here. Oh my good. Coach Phil. You know what? There's two things I'm going to say about all coaches. First name for Coach Phil is Coach. His last name is Phil. And I don't care what anybody else says because I've had coaches. So Coach Phil, please don't take that the wrong way. I say that out of respect.
Yeah, I don't even know Coach Phil's last name. Well, it's Phil.
Right.
It's Phil.
Right.
You already.
That's yeah. That's what I always call them, coach and their name. They used to ask me, what's your coach's name? Coach Phil or Coach Joe? That's what we go by.
Wonderful.
So
I see a bunch of. I don't know if I've met Tom. I gotta have to meet Tom one of these days. I think he might be somebody you know. So
yeah, and Tom's a cool guy. Yeah, and then you got Randy here. He and I have hooked up this way while we're talking, and this is a great segue. Tell us what you've been doing. Some people have been complaining about COVID during the process. And tell us what you've been doing, Brian, and how you've worked on your personal growth and development. I think we'd all like to know that.
yeah, absolutely. I think like a lot of people, hey, back in March, we were probably like, hey, this is a little blip in the screen. And, about a month later, I'm like, this is for real. I better get my head around this. And I think you're taking the same course, but Jeffrey Gitomer, a great sales author, came out with this course called The New Normal. And it really just kind of like woke me up like that. Is like, he said, it's time to get back to work, fellas and ladies. And it just really was like a refreshing moment for me. And he was really brought up the idea that this is a great opportunity to stand out. As the world takes a moment to pause, there's just this great gap of opportunity, and I want to be a part of that. So the things I've been doing is, one, things like we're doing here, collaborating with other sales professionals, collaborating with other leaders, and doing video and sharing our ideas. And so I've spent all my time and energy, obviously being in the audiovisual industry, I have a love and a passion for this video, but I've doubled down. I'm buying new cameras personally, creating my own studio space, taking different courses. I think you're taking a couple live streaming courses,
right?
And so it's just like, how do you improve in this space that the world's headed to? So the world's moving to a virtual world. It's moving to this online relationship building, and so how can you become an expert at that? And that's what I'm doing right now. Is just digging into that. Created some really good collaborative efforts that I'm in a group called the Megamind. We're like a little mastermind group that supports each other and just really pushes us to take it to the next level. So, I mean, that's what's really fun about this right now is just unlimited opportunity to reach people. I mean, Mark Gasser, where'd you come from? I mean, honestly, how are we even connected today?
Right. That's
amazing.
A great point. That's a tremendous point. And being in technology and AV, and I understand that, seeing as I won't mention the names of the organizations. One of them ends in the word man, and the other is like G something. You probably know who I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
Anyway, yeah. They're kind of premier organizations, but they have their extension of what it is that you do. How do you feel like technology is coming into play with everything, Brian? Because you see it firsthand now. What you're doing right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the event industry is essentially shut down right now. I don't know if anybody. I think it's a missed scenario with what's going on. People think of, hey, personally, I'm at home and I'm limited in what I can do, but the event industry right now is just truly probably at 5-10% of capacity. So our only option right now is to pivot into this virtual. Us as a company, we've created our own virtual platform at Prestige. We've shifted all of our resources, our staff, into the mindset of how can we deliver the content and the message that people need, but do it over the internet, do it in a socially distanced way. We're working with our facilities to figure out how to safely meet. And so it's a combination of health and safety. How do we meet again safely? Build trust with the people who are going to be coming out in person, but also keeping those relationships alive right now. Some of the scenarios we have is like large corporations, they still need to honor their employees. So we're still doing virtual awards events, and they still need to train. So they're still doing virtual training. And so the world does not stop, but we have to show up in a different way. And that's what we're doing as a company, is we're just saying, how do we show up in a different way? But I do want to add something. And I actually was on not a podcast, but a little roundtable discussion today. And the word trust came up. And I think that's the most important thing right now is our clients are calling us because we've been delivering for 30 years for them. And they don't know what to do. They're uncertain. They're confused. And they want to call somebody they know and trust. And I think that's, if you're going to do anything right now, be somebody that can be trusted. Be somebody that can provide some kind of certainty in an uncertain time. And that's what we're doing as a company, is trying to figure out how do we deliver that to people. And that's earned, but it's also being earned freshly in the moment. So I don't know if I answered your question there, Mark.
No, that was tremendous, Brian. It really was. And you made me think about some things when you were talking about trust. Something happened to me today. We were on a conference call trying to do a Teams meeting. They couldn't use that platform that begins with a Z. I'm kidding, yeah. Zoom. And so their company wouldn't allow them to do that. So we had to quick revamp. I'm like, oh, crap. And he says, I forgot to tell you this, Mark. So 5 minutes right prior to us going in, we're scrambling and trying to get the links out to 2 or 3 people. So as it worked, thank God they were having thunder boomers in around the Dallas area. So we got off the hook, and so we rescheduled it. But the thing is, trust, that's paramount. And if I wouldn't have had that trust, we wouldn't be doing this again. You know, if that had been somebody new or somebody that really know me or our company, not going to happen. So.
Well, I think it's also, I met you through that sales training that we were doing, and you started broadcasting some of your own on live, and it actually allowed me to build trust. You and I have not had but a couple little conversations direct, but it's as if I know you because you've been sharing your ideas, Mark's message. And so this is really a great platform to build trust whenever you can't meet in person like you used to. So,
right.
And if you wait till you can meet somebody like, hey, I need a meeting with you to share that information, you're not going to get that opportunity. Maybe they're too busy. They have other things going on. But if you're broadcasting, you're sharing like we are, people get to know you. And then when you actually meet them in person, they're like, I already know Mark Gassert. And like when we connected about this, it was like a no-brainer. Absolutely. I want to be on your show. Now we've had some other fun conversations too.
Right.
There's a couple things that I shared with you that some past stories about me crying as a kid about some sports oriented things.
Oh yes.
So,
yes indeed.
Are you ready to go there yet, or what?
Well, we'll get to that. I got a couple of more things. So I'm going to lead you down that road, so to speak. But tell us, like, philosophy. Often Jim Rohn used to say philosophy determines your income, not the economy. I know a certain party will disagree with that. I'm kidding. Anyway, so with that, to me, like, philosophy determines your outcome. So what do you do, Brian, to prepare yourself on a day-to-day basis? Like when you get up, I'm always curious about hanging out with winners. So what does Brian do? Like, you're going to get, before you go to the office, how do you prep yourself to say, hey, this is what I got to do to get me together so I take care of me so I can go out there and serve others? How do you do that?
Yeah, I'm going to have to be honest on this. And COVID's actually provided me a great opportunity to slow my life down just a touch. And one of the things I've gotten clear about is my health is my most important factor. So I've actually taken on a new habit of walking 5 miles 5 days a week, or my goal is 25 miles in a week. And that provides me two things, provides me some fitness, and it provides me some mental time. And what I'm learning is that extra time by myself without other people really allows me to check in with myself, check in with my heart, check in with my mind, digest some of the things that maybe I'm stressed about, and come up with some new strategies. And so I don't think I have a pure science. I'm not a person that gets up and meditates for 30 minutes, takes a 30-minute cold shower, and then
don't do that woo thing. Then is what you're telling me, right?
No, well, I'm into that, but I'll be honest, I'm not that consistent with it. I would like to be. Now, what I am passionate about being valuable in life, and so if there's one thing, I wake up every day with this just undesirable need to serve other people and make the world a better place, whether it's through sales, audiovisual, whatever it is. I don't know what it is. It's just been who I've been. And I feel like that serves me in every way, is that I want to just help the world. And that's just, it's just in me. I can't turn it off.
So now I'm really going to turn this over to you, my brother. Tell me about the book, Customer Delight. And then I've got something I'm going to interject here, but I really want to hear about why the book, how it started, because that's something I'm challenging me upstairs. Like, Brian wrote a book. This guy wrote a book. Why can't I write a book? So why don't you take it away? And
yeah, Mark, obviously a lot of people who are in, are motivated, sales oriented, whatever it might be. We all want to come up with a way to move forward in our life. And so I always wanted to write a book and share my ideas. So I made it a goal for myself many years ago to write a book, and, I just wasn't getting around to it. And finally, one day I said, I have to get this done. I have to get this done. So what I did was I actually came up with this idea of Customer Delight 365. I didn't come up with the term Customer Delight. There's actually a book out there called Customer Delight Principle. I can't remember who wrote it. I learned about it at a hospitality conference, as we've discussed. And I remember one of the things they said at the hospitality conference was that if you just satisfy people, they're not going to be loyal. And what I really liked about it is they dug into the data, and they found out that when you actually take people beyond satisfaction and you take them to delight, you create a loyal customer. And so I've always asked myself, how do I create loyal customers? And so I just really deep dived into this topic, and I decided I was going to write about it. But my life's busy. You mentioned I got an 11-year-old daughter. I have a wife. I have a home. I have things I need to take care of. And I was like, how am I going to write this book? How am I going to fit it in? And so I just well, let's make it bite-sized. And so I came up with this idea of a daily inspirational. And what I did was I took popular quotes that might relate to customer service or personal development, and I curated them over a period of time. And then I wrote passages about those topics and how they pertain to customer delight. And so really the book is about two things. One is being a great customer service professional, but it's also about being better yourself. Really, I came up with this quote, and it goes like this: delight is in the heart of the beholder. And the idea is that one way of looking at that is, they say perception is reality. So the other person's perception is their reality. So their delight is their reality. But also, if delight is in the heart of the beholder, that also means it has to be in you. You can't really share what you don't have. So the book is about you getting clear about who you are as a person, becoming a great person at yourself, your life, so that you can share that delight. And so that's a little bit about it. I do have a couple passages here, and then I would love to share today's passage, if you don't mind, Mark. It's actually a quote from my dad. So I'm going to go ahead and share this for those who want to go pick up the book at some point. But here on August 27th, you can see how it's formatted. I got a little quote and a little passage here, and it says, this one's actually from my dad, and it's a really simple one. And it says, I get to take out the garbage. And the way he would say that is, get out of my way, Brian. I get to take out the garbage. And so what that meant was sometimes something as simple as a word exchange can make all the difference in the world. Many would say, I have to take out the garbage. But my dear old dad, he always says, I get to take out the garbage. Get out of my way. This is my job. I'm taking out the garbage, and I love it. How is your approach to customers? Do you have to serve them, or do you get to create delight? I get to share this book with you, and it is a blast. And so that's kind of the deal with me in life in customer service is I get to serve customers. I enjoy serving customers. I want to, in the event industry, Mark, I'm sure you've had a scenario where you feel like you're basically having to perform miracles for your clients. They bring you these challenges like, hey, Brian, I'm doing an event tomorrow for 1,000 people, and I'd like you to bring in a light show and design a video for it, and it goes at noon. And we say, sure thing. That's a challenge. We love to do that. I don't know if you're out there still, Mark.
I am here. I'm listening to you, sir. I wanted to give you the spotlight. Listen, on that, I won't mention the airline, but they're pretty predominant here in Atlanta. I work with them pretty extensively. It begins with a D, ends with an A, so you can fill in the blanks. So I got hit with that a lot. And you know, I do have to digress. That really touched me when you talked about your dad, because I found a couple notes, you know, and I don't want to get emotional here, but they were handwritten notes my dad gave me. And they're in a couple of my books. And when I was going through my hell 11 years ago, trying to find employment or do whatever I had to do, if you remember that little hiccup in our economy, I did various things. I sold lawn care. I umpired games. I officiated basketball. I cut yards. I don't even want to think about it. But, you know, it propelled me. It made me mentally tough. And, you know, he just said, there was a note, just never forget where you came from, Mark. And that's always, whenever I get down, I pull that note out, and it's just like, you know, and I really appreciate you sharing that with us tonight. That touched my heart, Brian. It really did. I mean that sincerely.
Well, thanks. It was perfect. It was kismet. It was actually today's quote. I didn't curate that. I like, you know, one of the things that's actually been one of the really fun things about the book is when I talk with people, I open it up to the day, because I feel like that's the message that we're supposed to hear today. And so I'm glad that touched you. Yeah.
And here's the thing about your book. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know you didn't do this for the money, although I'm sure you picked up a few coins. I'm kidding. But it's more like, to me, the way I see you, you're this type of thinker. It's more like you want to create a movement, create a message within your industry. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of my take on your book. I have a printout here of something I'm going to share with you. It's from your book. One of our compadres sent it to me. I ordered your book, but it's not here yet, Brian. I'm sorry. It didn't get here yet. But
well, you'll be getting a signed copy as well.
Okay. Well, outstanding. Yeah. Now I'll have two. But
and then you can pass that one on to somebody.
Yes. In fact, maybe in Mark's message, if they can guess something, or, you know, I could probably say, hey, if you know my shoe size or something, I'm kidding, you know, you get this book. It'll be something more profound than that. But is that about right? I know. I digress. Look, if you're not having fun, you know, forget about it. And at my age, Brian, I'll tell you, I got a son right now. We're going through holy hell because he's trying to get married in December. And you would not believe the rigmarole we're having. And this is a big fat Greek wedding. And we're trying to get dates, times, places. Man, you would not believe what's going on out there in the stratosphere. But I just keep chugging down the track and come into my little bunker area here and do my thing.
Is that a real Is that your real wall, or is that a virtual background?
Oh, absolutely. What do you think, man? I'm going to knock through the wall, which you brought up a great point about walls. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I'll share Robert's comment, and rockets, plenty of rockets. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, Robert, deep thinker, and there's another one. Yeah. Speaking about walls, seriously, with your book, everybody goes through trials and tribulations. Now, you talked about Megamind, emerging sales winners, and all these other winners that are listening. And thank you very much for sharing, everybody, and listening. But what I find is they have helped me, instead of trying to go through the wall here. Hey, Mark, here's a door. Like, take a Jeffrey Gitomer. Hey, Mark, here's a door. Try this. Or a Joe Soto. Here you go. Okay. Yeah. You are taking it to the next level. Brian rocks. Thank you. Ron Goodwin Graphics. Go see that man. I'm telling you.
Ron's got a book up here. He's ready to bring
Oh
one.
my God. I'm waiting for him to write one. I can't wait.
I'm calling you out, Ron. We're going to get one going.
Yep, it's going to be. Phil, that's true. No, all kidding aside, I really, I've got a little printout from your book here, but someone shared it with me, and I'll bring it up.
I should have said I didn't realize you didn't have. I should have got that to you. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
I'm gonna have to send you 2 books now. Yeah. I got to make up for that.
No worries. No worries. It's all good. Listen, but getting into that, do you think groups like that help us grow and develop, like being in Megamind or, emerging sales winner, or taking a course like, from Jeffrey Gitomer, whether it's sales related, attitude related, whatever the case may be, the new normal, that particular course. Do you think that helped you or propelled you to do something? Or
absolutely. I think we've isolated ourselves even, so if you go back pre-COVID, we were all together, but were we really together? I think we were all very distracted. And I think we forgot the skill of supporting each other, to be quite honest. Right. And I think that's something that's really come out of this is like, the people that are in the chat here, I've met a number of them, and people, it's just bringing out the best in people. And people think, oh, that person's got it covered. He looks successful, but maybe they're hurting. Maybe they need help, or they need a leg up, and I think we've gotten scared to jump in. Like we're like, well, you'll let me know. And that's what I love about this. People know that people are hurting. People need help. Right. They need new ideas. And so people have been willing to take that risk and saying, hey, Mark, how can I help you get to the next level with your sales company? And Ron, how's your business doing right now? And that's that's one of the favorite things from that course was call somebody up and say, how you doing? What's going on for you? Not what kind of projects do you have on the horizon? Like, how are you doing?
Right. And that's a great point. I had a call, my last call of the day, and he was at home with his daughter and a dog. And I said, this is beautiful. You're not the vice president of sales. You're Jeff. You're Jeff, the dad. And this is cool. We're just having a conversation like 2 guys. He started howling, laughing and cutting up. And we developed a little bit more rapport. And, I just felt like I got to know him a little bit more as a person, And I told him, this is what life's about. I just want to cut to the chase and get to business,
Well, I mean, what's interesting, what really blew my mind early on in this is you would never get invited to the vice president of sales of a particular prospect you have to their house. But when you do a Z call, as you say, or on that platform that starts with a T, you're actually
you can say it.
You end up in somebody's home. And it really has changed. Right. Like, I mean, my daughter has been on at least 100 Zoom calls in the past 4 months. And people love it. I love is on some of the calls, people are like, I heard a dog, put them in the shot. People love animals. Everybody brings out their dogs.
I know. I've heard people do that. Hey, is that a dog? Hey, bring him in. This is on a business call. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe we're doing this, but it was fun, and I listen to my wife every day. She makes me stay in my little hole here because she's a teacher, but she's dealing with 3rd and 4th graders. It is amazing, Brian, how these kids just assimilate. They just jump in and grab hold of it. And some of the parents don't speak very good English, because you have some ethnicity in there. But the kids, man, they're resilient, man. They're like, who cares? It is amazing.
They've known nothing but this technology. I mean, how many years were the Jetsons like the video phone? Are we not on a video phone right now, Mark? I mean, it's here, but I'm still waiting for it.
That's true. This is like George Jetson, man. You got it. That's a great analogy.
We finally made it, but we didn't know we made it. So.
Right. Well, it wasn't by choice either, right? Yeah. I mean, it was always out there, but we never embraced it because we we want that face-to-face thing, and I think that's the best way to be. But right now, you got to do what you got to do. And I'm not making fun of anything. I mean, that's just how it is.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've noticed is I have gone to a few in-person events, and we've produced some hybrid events, and I don't want to poo-poo that because that's my lifeblood. But
Sure.
When you're wearing a mask and talking to somebody, it's just not the same. And so I actually still think this has some benefits that's better than some in-person projects, because I can see your facial expressions. I can see how you're experiencing things. But when you're actually meeting with people and you have a mask on, you miss out on a lot. And so, so right now there's pros and cons on both sides of the coin. And so I think this is better in some environments right now.
Do you do a lot of those type meetings, or have you? I mean, I shouldn't say a lot, but do you do? Thank you. Thank you, Ron. I love Ruby. Ruby's a great dog. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But do you do a lot of those?
Well, I personally don't do a lot of in-person sales calls right now. As a company, we've said, what is important. That's the guidance from the CDC or industry wide is try to prioritize your meetings, meet when you need to meet, when it is a benefit. As a company, we have a studio in our warehouse. And so we have a certain amount of people that are coming in for that. So we need somebody to physically man that camera, but we're not going to bring anybody more than we need to serve the need, because we want to be safe. We want to have longevity, and we don't want everybody sick, so.
No, that's a great point. And I was just going to ask you then, Brian, with that, you take the technology. So like some people use this, it's a phone, and some use email or text, and then others use like LinkedIn. Some people abuse that, by the way, but I'll get off that. That's another subject. And to constantly sell on it. And then, they'll use something virtual. They'll do a live stream. They'll use hippo video, like on their subliminal email messages, as I kiddingly say. But do you think, you just can't use one platform? How do you feel about that? Or do you have to use a cumulative effect?
No, I mean, for my industry, I have to be platform agnostic, and I have to be an expert across all platforms. Now, I will say this. Back in the day in our industry, a Mac computer was hard to hook up to projectors and things like that. And so my joke used to be like, well, if you had a phone that didn't connect to any of the other phones in the United States, would you use that? And so I'm like, why'd you show up with your Mac computer today? It's not going to connect to my projector. But the same thing is going on with virtual meetings. Zoom has become the de facto way for people to meet. So sometimes, although it may not always be the superior quality of a platform, you might ask yourself, what is the ease of connecting? And I think it's important to say, how do you create a frictionless environment to meet with somebody easily? And I actually there's a gentleman out of Australia who wrote a book called Run Frictionless. And he talks about how do you take away the friction to meet with people. And I think Zoom is on everybody's computer right now. So if you can do a Zoom meeting, that's probably the most likely to work. And like you did today, you decided to go over to Teams, and now you had friction. And so how do you reduce that?
A little bit. We did.
Yeah. So, but, so yes, but I think you should, if you're a professional, you should try to get acquainted with as many platforms as possible and have some level of understanding of that. Now that brings up a good point. Good point on sales. Okay. I think it's very important when you're booking appointments to be very clear about the platform of choice. And so that would be something to put into your sales script or your follow-up. Hey, it's great. We're meeting on Friday. I just want to be clear. Zoom is the best way to connect with you. Or
and that's a great point, because my customer called me and said, Mark, I am so sorry. I know you sent this a couple days ago or a week ago. And he said, I just didn't even bother or think upstairs to tell you we don't use Zoom. He felt really bad, like 15 minutes before the meeting. So,
Yeah. I mean, internationally, we have some international meetings coming up, and one of the scenarios is a particular organization is Korean, and they're concerned about being on Zoom because of government concerns of Chinese scenarios. And I'm not pro one way or the other in the politics of that, but yeah, so if this particular organization is part of the Korean government and has a relationship, they might be concerned about being on Zoom for various things. So you have to consider it's a very international experience right now, and there's many factors. I had another one too, and I hadn't even considered this. Just to bring up a totally random scenario, it was like somebody was trying to connect with us, and they were on Internet Explorer, and I'm like, who's on Internet Explorer these days? But in other countries,
right,
they're not necessarily on the same software cycles as the U.S., and so they may not be using Chrome or
that's a great point.
Firefox. And so I hadn't even considered that the other country was on a different software cycle than the US. And so those are just different things to think about.
So I have a question for you, actually three, but this one's from your book, and I love this quote. It's August 26th. Now, this is like day 238 out of your book. So it says, our life is frittered away by details. Simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. I say, let our affairs be as 2 or 3, not 100 or 1,000. Simplify, simplify. And believe it or not, the guy that sent this to me, he doesn't know this, but Henry David Thoreau, man, what a cool dude. And then I love your take from this. Here's some ways you might simplify customers' buying experience. Home delivery, concierge service, free automatic refills. How about that? Online ordering, gee whiz, drive-through window, unlimited access, 24-hour service. And then you go, now to be the first to offer it in our industry, this was a time when pizza was only available via horseback. Delight is simple and convenient. Now, I always think of Domino's. That made me think of Domino's when you stated about pizza, because he started out, bunch of broke college people just wanting to make deliveries. And look what that's become, an empire, so to speak. But
and I think
tell
Monahan
me about what made you write that.
Yeah, actually, I think a guy named Tom Monahan is like the CEO or something, but I'm not related.
Yes.
But I wish I was.
I was going to ask now if you are. I want to know. So feel free. I'll give you my account number after the show.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, as you read that back to me, it's freaky. I don't know if you know, but I actually wrote this book in 2016. It's just recently with all of
I do.
So it's almost like I forecasted a game plan for COVID and on that date, because that totally is what has happened over the past 4 months. Online delivery, special pickup, outdoor seating, and those are going to be some positive outcomes from this. I mentioned I was on that roundtable discussion, and we talked about what are some things you want to leave behind as we go post-COVID. One person said, I don't stand in line anymore. I order online, I come up, get my order, and I walk away. And so there's a lot of positive things coming out of this unique time, because I think when we're challenged with constraint, we come up with our best ideas. And so, I think the more convenient you are with your customers, it goes back to that term frictionless. How do you create a scenario that makes it easy for people to buy from you? Why would you, Amazon, one click? And I bought something, I think it was like Tuesday night at 8 p.m., one click, and it was on my doorstep the next day. I'm just like, how is this possible? Scary, isn't it? And I didn't even need it.
You can buy a grill or refrigerator or whatever, man.
I'm just like, how is this possible?
See what Mr. Wit and Wisdom here. Simplicity is the fast lane to sales. And he'd know. Ron Goodwin would know. And Robert shared something here, but when Apple utilized AMD video cards, that connection at the time was easy. Yeah, that's a great point, Robert. Then there was a company named Blockbuster. Are they still around? I don't think so. I'm kidding.
No, I actually I still have my Blockbuster card as a reminder.
I have a card.
It's a reminder to me to say,
I do have their card.
Don't become Blockbuster. I actually had it up here on my shelf for a number of months. So.
And Phil brings out another good comment. By the way, Phil, I'm just going to shout at you here. I'm not going to type it in. Sales Concepts. If you go to salesconcepts.com, since you asked what it is, it will tell you everything you need to know A to Z. I'm not going to do it here because it's not about me, but this is about, Brian and but go to salesconcepts.com and no worries. My next question. Everybody has one. And since I love baseball, and we're going to get into some of your other questions here, Cincinnati, can't believe you don't like peaches. Anyway, so a 3-2 count in your life, Brian, tell me when that happened and what the moment was when you said, hey, I'm up here. Here's my, like in the batter, it's 3-2, 2 outs, bases loaded. What the hell am I going to do here? Well, what happened at that 3-2 moment in your life?
Well, I actually think I'm in a 3-2 moment, but I'm still swinging right now, so I might have to get to first base. I think we're all in a 3-2 as we speak.
Right.
But no, actually, I'm going to go back to my Marine Corps days. There was a time in my life when I actually, when I was in the Marines in boot camp, and I didn't know it that I was actually in a 3-2 moment. But they used to do this thing where they'd have you get down on your hands and push around a rag, and they would pour water on the floor, and you would have to clean and dry the floor. Okay. Well, the floor was never going to dry because you're pushing a wet rag around on it. It was just a way to make your life miserable. But at this particular time, what happened was they sent about 2/3 of the platoon off to do something else. And I was back with about 10 people. And I was like, I don't know what's going on here, but they were having us push towels around. And all of a sudden I started noticing that anybody whose knees touched the ground and had wet on it, they were taken out. And I hung out with it. And later I found out all those guys got kicked back to the beginning of boot camp. This is at 4 weeks into boot camp. And, so just imagine, it's the ultimate test of your mental stamina, physical stamina. I'm pushing this. Seriously, get a wet rag on a piece of concrete and try to push it around for a couple hours and see how you're going to do. But when I'm having a bad
crazy
day,
stuff in boot camp, right?
When I have a bad day, I often go back to that and I'm like, yep, I didn't let my knees get wet. And, that I think sometimes, you have to,
there you go.
You're going to have some days that you got to keep your knees dry. So.
Now, let me ask you something. When you went in, I don't know how long ago it was, but I had the dubious honor, privilege, whatever. I had Vietnam veterans, my drill instructor. Oh, he was such a very understanding individual.
Oh, yeah.
That's who trained us. Yeah. They were brutal. And they had just kind of like, come back. I mean, not that long ago. And, they were horrible. I mean, but, and that brings me up to my next thing about, what is success to you? It's a 2-part question. And then you talk about how the military, they train. So like some companies right now don't want to do any type of training. I mean, whatsoever, because they're watching the dollar bills. Or what do you think about like training? I diverted here, but I'll get back to my success thing to you.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of success, I think the most important thing is that you always continue to move forward. I'm a big fan of progress over perfection. And so as long as I am always moving forward, that is success to me. I have a personal mantra that when I feel fear, that's my cue to actually step into something. And so I don't ever like to have fear get in the way of me doing anything. And so I think when you can push through that fear on a regular basis and say, I have what it takes, I may fail at this, but I'm going to step into it. I'm going to just keep pushing. I'm going to keep pushing myself forward.
Right.
That's success to me. Your question about training. I think training is at the utmost importance. Our company, we've always been pro training. Obviously being a technology company, we're never going to get to the end of that tunnel. It's always something new. So as a company, we've always made it a priority to train.
Right.
Now, one thing we've done is we actually use video. It's like, hey, we're on Teams calls. We're on.
Right.
Record every time you train somebody and then post it into our network. And now we have this great database of people that can, various trainings, people can go back through them. And so we are actually at a time where you can share training in a way you've never been before. And it's a great opportunity to share information, no matter whether it's with your internal organization, external, things like what we're doing here.
This is, you've kind of inspired me because I never feel like I do enough. I mean, I just look at what everyone else does, but I try and compete with myself. And I think that's sometimes I struggle with that, to stop comparing myself to you or others, and, just to stay well grounded and rooted and keep doing those fundamental things. Like, do you read in the morning? Do you do that? Do you write things on occasion yeah,
I mean,
is that something you take part of daily?
I mean, I have to be honest. You asked that. I am not your traditional, like, I'm not a taskmaster kind of person, but I just have this innate desire to be a part of something better and to better myself daily. So I always have a personal motto that every time you fall down, you can just get back in. So say I've gained 20 pounds and I've lost 20 pounds. I've probably lost 5,000 pounds in my life because I gain 20, I lose 20, I gain 20. But I'm okay with that. You have to always be willing to get back up on the horse and do it again and do it again and do it again.
Right.
So I'm always a fan of that.
That's a great point, Brian.
So, but comparing yourself to others is a trap, Mark.
Well, no, it is. It is.
And I do it.
I don't do it anymore. I'm saying when I was younger, I would do that. Now, I don't even worry about it. I just roll like, okay, great. So I'm just the guy that you see right here on the other end of the screen. And, I try and be of service to people. And, if they want to climb on board, fantastic. If they don't, I don't take it personal anymore. I think that's the hurdle. My wife gets mad at me because she said, you don't really care sometimes. And I said, what people think? And I kiddingly said, well, are they paying the bills? Are they taking care of this and that? And these were all things my dad talked to me about when I was younger, and things that happened to me in my life. He told me were going to happen, and they happened. I mean, the guy had a PhD of life. He lived to be 95, but it was just amazing. Some of the things that he shared with me about his life. I was very thankful he lived to be that long. He was from that greatest generation.
No, I mean, I think, experience is underrated in today's world. I look at my dad. He's about the same age as Jeffrey Gedimer, who we both follow. And it's just like, and I've followed Jeffrey for probably a good 20 years. And just to see his shift, and I'm like, there's something that happens when you get in your late 60s and 70s. People get like a real sage. And I think there's an opportunity for us to learn from people and just say, I think you shift out of trying to force things in life and you start using your smarts. Like, hey, I don't need to force this. I need to just think about it and come up with a better way. And why are we working so hard at this? So
Ron says, I found those pounds you lost. I'm keeping them. It's a sign of success in most cultures.
Yeah, I'm keeping the clothing.
I want some lobster, rich. Ron. Send the lobster to Peachtree Corners, please. We need it. And Robert man, this guy here, man, he keeps throwing. My grandpa lived to be 98 and was often heard to say, I had no idea I was going to live so long.
That's
My dad used to say to me, he used to tell the doctor, like, whatever you do, doc, don't get old, like one of his last physicals. And he said, get out of here. He says, I know I'm one step away from the glue factory. I mean, my dad just had a optimistic look. The older he got, he went from some hardcore dude. Now you got to remember, Sergeant Major, ask me if I made the bed. Don't. But yeah, ask me if my shoes were shined. Don't. I mean, I was like, oh God, at the Gassard family, everything had to be,
Yeah, I can't imagine living in a pure military household.
Well,
That had to have been
it was
quite a
different.
treat.
That's why I became a rebel, I guess, at some point. But I do have to ask you about all this now. We're going to have some fun here because we got so deep and so serious. So you're saying your favorite football player, Boomer Esiason. Talk to me about that. He's a quarterback that played for the Bengals. So why is he your favorite?
There is nobody that does a better. What do you call that when they put it on the hip? The draw.
Oh, yeah, they're
I don't
like
think,
faking.
Yeah, I don't think there's been a better quarterback that runs the draw than Boomer Esiason. He was so skilled at it that I remember watching the games as a kid, and the cameras would be caught off guard. They would be following the running back, and their Boomer would pull the ball back out and be like, and he was a lefty too. He was a competitor. I loved his just how hard he played. Of course, he's one of two Bengals that went to the Super Bowl as a quarterback. So
Yes.
And
I believe Kenny Anderson was the other, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think Boomer has probably the Bengals' last playoff win, which is just so obviously he's my favorite Bengal. I like Chris Collinsworth too. He's always enjoyable.
He was a good receiver.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this now. You said favorite fruit. What is it?
My favorite fruit's actually cherry pie.
Ooh, I like that.
So interesting enough, you're from the peachiest place in the U.S.
On the planet? Yes, I am. I mean, come on.
I live in a neighborhood called Fruit Hill, by the way. And,
oh wow!
And it took me a while. I'm not very sharp, but the neighborhoods around me are Cherry Grove and Beach Acres, and I'm like, they used to have fruit that grew in the neighborhood back in the day. But it took me a while to figure that out.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't believe me when I tell them I'm from Peachtree Corners. They'll look at me kind of weird. What was that address? What was that again, Mark? Peachtree Corners, Really? I'm like, yeah, I'm being for real. So, whatever. They can get over it. So, tell me your best event story, because everybody's got one. I mean, there had to be. I don't even want to get into when I was in the event business, because Lord knows. And that was back a few years ago. And what people did to get contracts signed, I'm just going to say this. Somebody went to the ballet, and I don't mean the ballet. You can fill in the blanks and use your imagination. And the contract was signed on a napkin. And it was in the file I had, and I had to write up this show. So I had to go to our GM and say, hey, how do I write this up? It had per handshake and signature. I had no idea what we were billing for, but tell me your story. Oh, yeah. Oh, good Lord. Yes.
So my best event story is actually kind of like a sideshow to the event. We were doing an event for a large pharmaceutical, and it happened to be going into the Beverly Hilton Hotel. And my clients, it was another production company that was hiring us to do all the, the back end work. And he's like, but Brian, you need to get in on Saturday if you want to be there on Monday for load in. And I'm like, okay, why? And he's like, well, the Golden Globes are in the hotel on Sunday night.
Oh, wow.
And for security purposes, you have to be in on Saturday or you can't check in the hotel on Sunday. So I thought about it. I'm like, well, I'll give it a chance. I mean, it's going to be the Golden Globes, and we're actually loading into the ballroom of where the Golden Globes are held the very next morning. So I had to send out my truck driver, and he got there early, and he was kind of a character. And he called me. He's like, Brian, you're not going to believe it, but my room has windows that open. I go, okay. his hotel room. He's like, you need to get over here. And I'm like, okay. And I go over there and he opens the windows and we're literally on the red carpet behind the paparazzi for the Golden Globes. And so,
oh Lord,
like people would have paid millions of dollars to have the room that he has, but we just happened to be in there the next day. And so we watched the Golden Globes red carpet from his room, and like we were so close to the stars. And in January when the Golden Globes are, the football was going on. So like I remember Dustin Hoffman's asking us, what's the score of the Pittsburgh game? Because he's stuck on the red carpet. And so, I mean, it was, we were so close that we could literally talk to the stars face to face. And so, and then you weren't allowed to stop in the lobby. So my colleague went out to the smoking section outside the building. Well, they let you hang out there. Here comes, Alec Baldwin, and he bums a cigarette off of my colleague.
Oh, my goodness.
And so it was like the smoking section of the hotel was the best part of the party. And so all these stars were coming out getting their quick cig before they had to get back on for the Golden Globe.
Goodness.
So it was just one of those once in a lifetime moments that you couldn't plan. It was just, so it was an amazing night. Ran into all these stars, and it was just like, hey, it was show business. So it was a good time.
Yeah, that's what I always used to tease the AV people about, because they do put in a lot of miles. I mean, to make those general sessions stellar, because they have to go perfect. And when they don't, you hear about it. And that's what people don't understand about live events, whether it's the AV side of it, trade show side of it. You're under the gun, and you get hit with multiple things in a day that just blow you. To the average person, my wife saw what I was doing back then, and she's like, oh my God, this is chaos. I said, yeah, it's organized chaos. I said, welcome to the Titanic, but we're not going to go down, but we're sinking, but we're not going to go down.
I've always say in the live event business, advance notice is any time before you need it. So it's a runaway train at all times.
No, when you said about we have this event, and that's what I get hit with. We have 100 booth show, and we're going to have 300 people at our general session at the Marriott Hotel. Do you think you could? And you're like, and when is this? Oh, we're going to do it in 5 days from now. And then you go back to your ops people. They're like losing their cookies. Who signed this? Who booked this? I'd be like, hey, Gasser, what are you doing? I'm like, well, you guys want revenue. What?
Yeah, we've been trying to get this piece of business for 10 years, and it's on Friday. Okay.
I know, yeah. Or move in Sunday. Yeah, I love it. Overtime. And so,
I mean, good news, Brian. You can get in the ballroom at 3 a.m. if you'd like. We're starting at 7. So.
Well, Brian, I don't know what else to ask you other than to say it has truly been my privilege, my honor to get you to know you better. I feel like we're neighbors now, man, even though you're absolutely in Cincy. My brother lived in Cincinnati, by the way. But there is something I want to share with you that you have in common. Earl Nightingale was a Marine. You do know that?
I did not know that.
Yes, he is a Marine, was. And, he studied, right? Psychology and how to win, and he was totally engrossed in that for 40 years. But what I found most, he almost got blown up on a ship. And guess what, Garrett? This happened. He was on the battleship Arizona, Brian.
Oh, wow.
So Pearl Harbor. So he almost was toast. I mean, there's another guy from that greatest generation, and that's what I'm saying. There's hope for America. I mean, there's guys like you that write books. It inspires me to go onward. There are other people out there. We kid about Jeffrey Gitomer, I like Ken Walls. There's so many people out there that, they're leading the way, man. And I'm just going to share some comments here as I digress.
These are wonderful.
But and thank you guys for doing this. I really appreciate it, because this doesn't work without you. And I appreciate you being here, because you don't have to listen to Brian and I rant. But, with all that said, there is hope. And, because Zig passed, so it's like, well, gee, who's going to take his spot? And you got Harvey McKay out there, and nobody lives forever. So, but I think there's going to be all these deep thinkers coming forth, and I kiddingly say this. I think some of them are going to come out of Megamind, emerging sales winners, and they're going to say, where the hell did these people come from? I never heard of them, and they're not professional speakers, but they're deep thinkers, they're doers, they're achievers. And that's not always predicated on what's in your wallet. Obviously, that's nice. But, I think you're going to see a new legion of people out there, because of this. That's just my perception.
Yeah. I mean, I think as sales professionals, we are resilient too. And it's probably not by chance that we met each other, because we're used to already being told no for most of our life. And so.
Yeah. How do you feel about that word no, man? I mean, my wife thinks I'm sick, because I love when you get into a discussion. Mm-hmm. She's very ethnic. She's Greek. And she says, you just want to argue. I'm like, no, this is engagement now. This is true engagement. I'm loving this. And she's like, no, you're sick. You want to argue. And it's not that. I love differences of opinion and differences. I think that's what makes us great, as an organization, as people.
No, I mean, I think, obviously the more that you can be open to different people, the better your chance. And also, but you're saying more like having differing opinions. So
right.
But talking about no, there's nothing better than getting a no and then winning the business. I think that's the ultimate.
Yes. Yes.
It's like now it's also nice just to get a yes. Sometimes right. One of my biggest piece of business, I sent the quote over and it's just like, yeah, and here's the specs for the show. And I'm like, that was too easy.
Right.
So that was kind of like anticlimactic, because it was too easy, where, you've been told, I think we're going to go another direction. And you're like, let's go back and look at something. So.
Right. And you brought up another great point there, Brian, when you talk about value, like people say no. So it's like, well, man, I want to use Brian. I want to use, Prestige AV as creative services. But damn it, he costs too much. You know what? Joe Schmo over here could probably do this smaller meeting. Well, they go to Joe Schmo and they try it. And it's like, oh, my God. Then they come right back to you. I mean, I'm sure this has happened to you.
Well, here's our approach as a company, actually, though, is I've had scenarios where, maybe a team member comes back and says, our competition's coming in at X. Do you want to match that price? And I'm like, I go, no, actually, what I would like to do is try to get the money that we've quoted, but give them more for their dollar. I go, because if we just match the price, match the product, then there's no differentiation. We have to give them something more. And if you give them something more, they're going to come back. And so, and I think you have to be proud of your product. And if you are more expensive, you're more expensive. That's your job to make that case for the differentiation. And as a company, we win a lot of business as the more expensive company.
Sure.
I mean, because you could buy a lesser product.
Hey, do you ever compete against the big F?
Oh, I'm sure we have. But as you said earlier, though, we don't like to look at people as competition. We
right.
Just, it's we're our own product, and we're either a right fit or we're not.
Thank you, Tim. That's a great point there, Tim. I just want to point. He said, build relationships that last decades, and that's the goal. Get off that price thing and all that crazy stuff, and that's a great point.
Yeah, I know Tim. He's a great business operator, and he shared a story where he's helping his clients out, like working in their business because they can't hire people because they weren't able. So it's just like, how far will you go to build that relationship? So
that's tremendous. That's tremendous.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's all about, I always say to people, I'm in this business for the long haul. If I don't get you this decade, I'm going to get you the next decade. So,
right.
I don't need it if it's not right. You got to.
And that's funny because because this guy said to me the other day, are you never going to stop calling me? I said, well, just like you tell me no, the answer to that is no. I'm going to keep calling. So, and he just likes, okay, man, here, what can we do? Here's my situation. How can you help me? So, and then it leads into something. But I think it's a matter of sales is a thankless job at times. It's the most rewarding, I feel, when you help somebody solve their problem and it really works. Like you come up with a great idea that's going to benefit them, their organization, help them save money, create some enthusiasm, some excitement, and that's what I'm seeing taking place. That's just me on the outsider looking in, because there are some younger people out there in sales, and some of them do a tremendous job, man. They're really, they're eons beyond me when I was that age. Let me tell you, because it was totally different.
No, I mean I've sat on a few demonstrations looking at these virtual products, and I mean some of these sales professionals are really polished in the space, and I'm like, they got the technology down, they understand the environment, and it's a new skill set, so it's something that can continue to grow in. So absolutely.
And Robert is his quote again. This was what was set out as an outcome of the two friendship missions I've started. The latter still ongoing. I forgot about the income generation part, thinking it wouldn't be needed. Circumstances showed me otherwise. Okay. That's interesting. That's an interesting
Yeah, it
perspective.
sounds like he's saying he's starting to build friendships first, and the whole idea of having some kind of commerce between them
Right.
is an outcome, a secondary. Yeah, I face that a lot. I've had people I called on, and
Sham woes to you. He says, I have sham woes.
nothing
I'll
wrong
tell
with
you what,
ShamWows.
that Robert's crazy, man. Robert, when's the book coming out? Man, you just keep writing all this stuff. I want to see one. But you know what, Brian? I'm going to get ready to end this thing. But before I do, I really want to thank you for coming on here and doing this. It's opened up my eyes as to what you're about, what makes you tick as a human being. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm doing what I'm doing. It's not for fame, it's not for the money. I just want to build, some sort of brand, but with that brand, to give a message back to people. I'm hoping that this is worthwhile. They got something out of it. There was some worthwhile content we shared, and we all grow together, and that's what I'm about. I'm beyond that other side of kill or be killed mentality and all that fun stuff. I just that's not what excites me anymore.
No, I think you're right. You're on the right path, Mark. And by the way, thanks for having me. This has been a blast, and we have many conversations. I think we're going to have to do this again.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
We barely touched on the surface of
Oh, I
things.
know. I
So
know. And off camera, I'm sure there could be some other things we
yeah.
could talk about, particularly in this crazy special events, live events, trade show, AV related industry. And I respect everybody that's in that industry. I truly do, because they work like there's no tomorrow, man, to make things happen. My hat goes off to them. Those guys on the docks moving stuff. Oh my God.
Yeah, I always say if you want to get something done, get somebody in the AV or the stagehand industry, because they just whatever it takes. So
But no, we will definitely have to do it again, Brian. And let me ask you this: is there a part two to this book, or have you ever
yeah,
thought about?
yeah, I think I'm settling in on a few ideas here, and you will be one of the first to know should there be another book. But it's not going to be next week or anything like that. So,
Okay.
but
Okay.
these conversations are spurring me on some new ideas. So I'm not going to tip my hat on the name of the next one, but I do have an idea for a few names. So
That's tremendous. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to thank everybody for joining us. Thank you for sharing it out. And most important to our guest here, Brian Monahan. I'm expecting great things when I hear about Prestige AV and Creative Services. I think we're going to hear some other things as far as literary opportunities with this man. And I'm sure he'll be elsewhere where they'll be interviewing him about not just one book, two book. There could be more books down the road. I mean, this guy could be the next Gittimer. You know what? It could happen. So
well,
kiddingly say
absolutely.
that, but it could happen. And I'm not saying no to it. Anything's possible, Brian.
I
Brian,
appreciate it.
push yourself. Yeah,
Push
Phil.
myself. All
Yeah,
right.
I
Well,
don't think
I
that's.
owe Phil a book by next week.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
No, I don't know
Okay,
if that's
Phil,
what
I
I'm
heard
put.
it here live. We'll get you a book. But anyway, thanks again, everybody. Brian, thank you again. And feel free to reach out to me. I'm just real quick. It's Prestige AV and Creative Services. You can find Brian, and I should have probably put it up here at B Monahan at prestigeav.com. You can go to his website, prestigeav.com, and you can find Brian anywhere. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. You can see him taking walks, pontificating the finer points of life. You can see him doing some of this with that left hook. Yeah, that's the one I like. That was good. That was good. I like that. So anyway, guys, I'm going to back it on down because my wife's probably freaking out saying, what's this guy doing for an hour? Get out of there.
Hey,
But
by the way, I'm going to be on Bruce's show on September 8th.
oh, cool.
Bruce just asked me to be on his show, but he knows I'm going to be on his show on September 8th. So everybody look up BSVP.
Hey, Bruce, that's great. You know what? I will definitely check that out. And I probably ought to have Bruce on sometime.
Oh, Bruce is the best. You got to get Bruce on your show.
There's another brainy mug.
Yeah.
See, and I like hanging around you techno brainy type people, man. You inspire me because I won't tell you how old I am, but I was born in 56. So for what I'm doing, a lot of people my age tell me I should retire and stop. But I'm just going to keep going till I wear out, man. That's what it's all about. So I'm just going to keep rocking and rolling. Brian, thanks again.
Thanks.
Let's keep in touch. Everybody, have a very blessed, productive day, what's left of it for Thursday. And before I leave, you know what I'm going to tell you all? It's Mark's message. So, as always, be a leader, be a friend. Most important of all, let's all be a service. This was Mark's message, Peachtree Corners, Georgia, with the one and only Brian Monahan, and we're going to back it on out of here. See you, everybody.